Tonight, extreme. The fire danger rating made worse by a spring dip. Evacuation order lifted. Evacuees in Grand Prairie get to go home. And drug bust. A Dawson Creek man facing a number of charges. Good evening and thank you for joining us. And we begin tonight with the fire danger rating around Fort St. John is extreme. In other parts of the Peace region like Dawson Creek and Chetwynd, that rating is listed as high. And while the ongoing drought situation in northeast BC is a factor, the BC Wildfire Service says part of the problem can be attributed to the annual spring dip. Now, the phenomenon is caused by a decrease in moisture in the needles of coniferous trees. It happens shortly after the snow is melted, but before vegetation begins to get green. The number of wildfires in British Columbia has roughly doubled over the past several days, but it's too soon to predict if that's an indicator of what's to come this wildfire season. The BC Wildfire Service posted a seasonal outlook last month, which forecasted the ongoing drought to continue and to persist across northeast BC. However, drought conditions have improved compared to the spring of last year. The amount of rain this spring will influence the length and intensity of this year's wildfire season. An evacuation order has been lifted for an area near Grand Prairie after a rapidly spreading wildfire is now listed as being held. The RCMP say the fire started about 4 kilometers southwest of city limits. An Alberta emergency alert was issued Sunday, ordering people in part of the county of Grand Prairie to evacuate. Officials say about 100 evacuees were registered and no structures have been destroyed. A fire ban has been issued for the county of Grand Prairie, as the current fire hazard there is listed as extreme. And a Dawson Creek man is facing a long list of charges after being arrested in Grand Prairie. Mounties responding Saturday night to a report of a stolen vehicle. When they arrived at a home, they spotted a man getting into that vehicle that allegedly also had stolen license plates. The male suspect drove off, attempting to flee the scene, but was stopped by officers. He then allegedly tried to get away on foot before being arrested. Well, a subsequent search of the vehicle discovered close to 30 grams of illicit drugs, including fentanyl and methamphetamine. Mounties say they also found a pill press and other drug trafficking paraphernalia. Daniel Davidson of Dawson Creek is facing numerous charges, including possession of a stolen vehicle, assaulting a police officer with a weapon, and 3 counts of possession for the purpose of trafficking. The 41-year-old remains in police custody pending his next scheduled court appearance on May the 12th. And police in Fort St. John are asking for the public's help in finding a wanted woman. Mounties are looking for Vanessa Ray Davis. The 38-year-old is currently wanted on a warrant for assault causing bodily harm. Now, Davis is described as an Indigenous female. She stands 5 feet 6 inches tall and weighs 150 pounds with black hair and brown eyes. Anyone with any information on her whereabouts is being asked to contact the Fort St. John RCMP. Hospitality workers at 3 oil and gas camps in the Peace region have ratified new contracts. Workers at Horizon North Cobes Creek Camp are headed back to work after being locked out by their employer. Horizon North locked the workers out after the union issued 72-hour strike notice last week. The culinary, housekeeping, and janitorial workers will see their wages increase by 33.5% over the term of the contract. They also receive employer-paid health benefits, retroactive pay, as well as travel pay. Employees at Horizon North's CPC Montney and Attachie Lodges have also voted to ratify their new contracts. Well, in an effort to improve public safety, the province will be conducting a BC-wide test of its emergency alert system. Well, it's a noise we all recognize, and tomorrow residents in BC can expect to hear it from their TVs, their smartphones, and their radios. At around 1:55 in the afternoon, the province will send out its clearly labeled test alert, and it's reminding residents not to be alarmed. The test comes amid a countrywide campaign for Emergency Preparedness Week. It appears a large number of drivers in BC are unsure about the basic rules of the road. A new survey from BCAA says 70% of drivers admit they had no knowledge of BC's slow down, move over law. The law means drivers must slow down and move over for a vehicle stopped on the roadside displaying flashing red, blue, or yellow lights. Instead, nearly half of those surveyed have reported seeing other drivers pass by too closely, while 32% have seen people speeding or driving aggressively. You're being reminded to slow down, give yourself extra space between other cars, and never use your cell phone when you're behind the wheel. Well, political leaders in BC are responding to the latest tariff broadside from Donald Trump. The U.S. president is threatening to impose 100% tariffs on all movies made outside of the United States.
When I saw that, I thought, what an arrogant SOB, quite frankly.
Incredibly negative impact to the whole industry, including the U.S. film industry and the workers there.
Our province will stand with you. We are so proud of the work that you do. We are international recognition for exceptional quality.
British Columbia is often referred to as Hollywood North because of the amount of movie production that is done here. In total, BC's film industry generates more than $2 billion a year, and it employs around 70,000 people. To Alberta, where backlash is growing over the Premier's suggestion that a referendum on separation could be on the table. First Nations leaders are furious, saying Alberta doesn't have the power to separate lands protected by treaties that predated the province. Some have even threatened to stop energy exploration on their lands. Kathy Lee has more from Calgary.
Premier Danielle Smith continues to stress that she doesn't support Alberta separating from Canada and would rather strike a fair deal with Ottawa on the demands that she put forward. Having said this, Smith says she would hold a referendum on provincial separation next year if there are enough signatures on a citizen-led petition. Last week, she tabled legislation that would make it easier for voters to force a referendum.
A citizen-initiated referenda would be, by definition, initiated by citizens. And so I won't prejudge what issues citizens might want to put on the table, but that is up to citizens to decide and to get the number of signatures. All I've said is I will honor the process.
Smith added that if a referendum vote on separation was held today, it would get about 30% support. She is hopeful the number is lower if the province can negotiate a better deal with Ottawa on issues like laws and regulations that she claims restricts Alberta's ability to develop its resources and fair federal transfers.
We tried for 2.5 years with the Prime Minister that was in place when I got elected, and I'm going to try. I think that's the only thing that I can do, and hope that we have a different approach.
As for the feasibility of separating from the country, a legal expert says first there needs to be a majority vote, then a complicated and drawn-out negotiation with the rest of Canada.
We're talking about an unprecedented national crisis that would potentially take years to fully resolve, if it ever fully did.
In addition to complexities within Canada that Alberta would have to contend with on separation, it would have to be recognized and accepted as a country in the international arena.
Well, a high-stakes, much-anticipated face-to-face meeting between the American president and new Canadian Prime Minister unfolded in the Oval Office in Washington this afternoon. The president, still maintaining Canada should be the 51st state, billing it as a good deal for Canadians. But as CTV's Abigail Beeman tells us, Mark Carney was clear, Canada will never be for sale.
The first image of the two leaders matching fist pumps. Inside the Oval Office, the meeting started with flattery from both sides.
We were watching it with interest, and I think Canada chose a very talented person, a very good person.
Thank you for your hospitality and above all for your leadership. You're a transformational president.
But when President Donald Trump maintained he'd like to see Canada as the 51st state,
somebody drew that line many years ago with like a ruler, just a straight line right across the top of the country. I do feel it's much better for Canada.
Prime Minister Mark Carney stood firm.
Having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale. Ever.
Trump pushed the idea again, but watch the Prime Minister's mouth.
Never say never. Never say never.
Carney mouths never. While cameras rolled, the meeting stayed friendly, Trump himself seeming to reference it was far different than being Zelensky, so to speak.
This is very friendly. We're not. This is not going to be like we had another little blow up with somebody else. That was a much different.
But the trade dispute is far from over, with upcoming negotiations of CUSMA, or the new NAFTA, hanging in the balance.
We want to make our own cars. We don't really want cars from Canada. We really don't want Canadian steel, and we don't want Canadian aluminum and various other things because we want to be able to do it ourselves.
After the meeting, Carney told reporters the pair established a good basis.
I'm not trying to suggest at any respect that we can have one meeting and everything's changed, but now we are engaged and very fully engaged.
Carney also said he asked the president to stop calling Canada the 51st state, but he didn't share how Trump answered. He said the pair agreed to have more discussions in the coming weeks and to meet in person when Canada hosts the G7 in Alberta next month. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Ottawa.
Conservative leader Pierre Polyv returned to Parliament Hill today. It's the first time since his election loss, which saw him lose a seat he's held for more than 2 decades in his Ottawa riding. In the first meeting since the campaign, the Conservative caucus chose Andrew Scheer as their interim parliamentary leader. Scheer lost the 2019 federal election to Justin Trudeau. They also voted to adopt the rules of the Reform Act, giving them the power to trigger a leadership review down the line. But Polyv is already pledging to lead his party to victory in the next election.
We'll keep the enormous number of the 8 million people who voted for us, that was just almost 2.5 million more than the previous time, but then add another roughly 1 million votes that will allow us to get over the finish line.
Now, Polyv won't be able to bait the Prime Minister in question period until he wins his seat back in a by-election. Rural Southern Alberta MP Damien Currick has agreed to step aside temporarily so Polyv can run in his Battle River Crowfoot riding. The lengthy by-election process means Polyv likely won't be back in the House until the fall sitting. The federal New Democrats have selected a BC MP, Don Davies, as their interim leader. The party says the veteran Vancouver Kingsway MP will lead the NDP forward, replacing Jagmeet Singh, who announced his resignation on election night. The NDP says Davies will work closely with caucus, council, and party members to set a path forward as preparations begin for a leadership race in the months ahead. The woman who alleges she was assaulted by 5 former members of Canada's World Junior Hockey team in 2018 pushed back against defense lawyers today. She rejected a suggestion in court that she wanted a, quote, wild night. Michael Mloud is accused of inviting his teammates to his London, Ontario hotel room after he and the woman had consensual sex. Well, that's when the alleged sexual assault took place. His lawyer said that the woman today, I'm going to suggest that you said something to him along the lines of, get some of those guys back here. I want to have a wild night. She responded, that doesn't sound anything like what I would say, and I don't remember saying those words. All 5 of the men are charged with sexual assault, but have pled guilty, not guilty. Mloud faces a second charge of a party to the offense. Well, the search for 2 missing children in Nova Scotia has now entered its 5th day. Jack and Lily Sullivan, who are 4 and 6 years old, went missing in Pictou County last Friday. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth has an update on the search and what the family is saying.
The desperate search continues here in Pictou County, Nova Scotia. More than 100 search and rescue workers, many of them volunteers, continue their efforts working alongside the RCMP. As the massive search continues in the thickly wooded area of this Nova Scotia community, 6-year-old Lily and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan's mother and stepfather are holding out hope, waiting and praying for any good news.
The very first day I wasn't around very much because I was just searching. I was running through the woods, screaming their name till my throat hurt.
The focus of the search involves a radius of several kilometers from where the children were last seen playing on Friday.
We want to bring these 2 children home to their parents. We've got people who've been here since day one, since the first time the call came in. So they're tired and they're optimistic. They have one job. This is all search and rescue does, is they try to bring people home safely.
The search area has expanded on an hourly basis, and the methods being deployed are also changing. Originally there were 2 search and rescue helicopters. Now there are 3, and rescue workers have deployed 5 drones to assist in their efforts to find these missing children. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News.
Rome is buzzing today as dozens of cardinals prepare for tomorrow's conclave to select the next pope. Today, the cardinals held a last General Assembly at the Vatican.
For many, these meetings that have been taking place in the last few days are the first time they're really getting to know one another. They even had name tags for them so they could see who they're talking to.
4 Canadians are among the 133 cardinals who are eligible to vote for Pope Francis's successor. Some leading contenders include Cardinal Luis Tagle of the Philippines and Pietro Parolin, the Vatican's Secretary of State. Ahead of the conclave, Pope Francis' fisherman's ring was voided in a symbolic move, officially ending his tenure as Pope. The ring was used to seal documents, and it was kissed as a gesture of respect and devotion. Tomorrow, all eyes will be on the skies for the first sign of smoke emerging from the Vatican, signaling a new Pope has been selected. All right, please do stay tuned. We'll be right back after the break with weather.